Good morning and welcome to Passport to the World with me, Cathy Retief-Neil. I'm so keen to talk to my studio guest this morning that I'm getting beyond myself. We have, for the first time in our studio, Dawn Jorgensen. Dawn, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Cathy. A real pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm so happy to have you in the studio. I met you some time ago, and I've been wanting to get you on the show because I do love your blogs and I love the Incidental Tourist website, which I've been reading up on, and I thought I would be so happy if you could come and chat to us. And of course, you've come all the way from Wellington.
Yeah, I'm actually a Boerland girl, Free State girl who finds myself living in Boerland. So this was actually a lovely drive this morning coming across through Stellenbosch. And yeah, I thank you for those kind words about my blog, The Incidental Tourist. It's something I've been nurturing for about 4 years, and a place that I get to tell stories and share my experiences. And I really view it like a baby. I love it and look after it best I can.
Well, I'm so glad you feel that way about it because we love reading it. And I would recommend that you read The Incidental Tourist online because it really gives you a lot of interesting information and some very good tips, and of course gives you some insight into the various destinations. But Dawn, this morning we are going to be talking about something. I wonder how many people have done this before, and that was your visit to Reunion.
Yes, I was very, very lucky. I was invited as a guest of Reunion Tourism to attend their Festival of Freedom in December. The 20th of December marks the abolition of slavery in Reunion, on Reunion Island. And they have for the last 5 years turned this into the most wonderful gathering of Creole singers and dancers, artisan producers, just getting everyone together right on the beach, very much island style, and celebrating. And I was there for it last year.
Sounds absolutely wonderful. And of course, I think December is probably a good time to go. It must have been pretty hot though.
It was very hot, but I think that the intense humidity and the rain that came in the evening kind of just intensified all the senses. You know, we were out there. There were stages set up on the beach, barefoot, dancing with complete strangers. Although on an island with 150,000 people, there's not really much like that. There are no strangers. And I just think a bit of rain and mud underfoot just made it all the better.
Wonderful. One of those really eco-friendly experiences, as they say. Now, let's just give us a little insight into Reunion. I know it's obviously in the Indian Ocean, and we know it's off the coast of Africa. And I think its closest neighbor must be Madagascar?
That's absolutely right. I think that when people are planning holidays in the Indian Ocean, at one of the islands, Reunion might not be one that comes to mind. I think especially as South Africans, we've really always focused on Mauritius with their wonderful deals that they offer, and even Seychelles. I haven't been to those two, but I've been lucky enough to go to Madagascar too. And when the opportunity came up for Reunion, it just seemed so much more exotic in a way, more interesting. It has a live volcano which they proudly call their own, and that actually spewed out some interesting lava just a couple of weeks ago. But it just feels like it's the people's island, and I really did get to experience that. It is just off the coast of Africa. Closest neighbor is Madagascar, and it is part of a collective marketing group called the Vanilla Islands. They all produce wonderful vanilla, and I think that's a wonderful way that we're going to be able to refer to them moving forward as the Vanilla Islands.
Brilliant. But I would imagine, I know there's an eclectic mix of people living on the island, but I think they like to think of themselves as Creole, which I wonder how many people realize the word Creole actually means a native, someone who was born in a country and brought up there. So there are many people of this descent and that descent, but they call themselves Creoles, which is interesting. Of course, I would imagine French would be the main language there. They still fall under French rule, do they not? Yeah,
Reunion does. Actually, Reunion is a French principle. They refer to France as the metropole in this wonderful way, as though it was just down the corner or a suburb, not across the whole continent of Africa. And it is French. French is spoken. The euro is used, which was such a surprise to me. Wow. I thought it would have a currency of its own, but it absolutely falls under French rule. The police are sent out from France, exactly. And what a wonderful post to be awarded if you're that's your line in France. And you really get a feel of that. It obviously has a sense of being an island destination, and there's such a casual, relaxed atmosphere. But then you have your lovely infrastructure and roads, and it's as though they do have this big brother that is taking care of them with great pride.
Sounds amazing. But tell me, how do we get to Reunion from here?
It's actually easier than we think, especially if you're in Johannesburg. I mean, I think us in Cape Town, we always have to go via Johannesburg. But Air Austral are offering 2 flights a week on a I think it's a Thursday and a Sunday. And it's only a 4-hour flight out of Johannesburg. Also important to note that South Africans don't need visas to go to Reunion. And I think as travellers on South African passports, this is definitely a consideration when we're looking at where next we're going to be. I would definitely recommend that you go at any time of the year. I mean, it was really hot and humid in December, which was part of the experience that I had, and I endorsed it and loved it, or embraced it rather. But I think that if you wanted to go for their outdoor activities, the winter months, or our winter months, would probably be better. It's just got so much. You get there and everywhere you look, there are these beautiful island residents running and cycling and walking and just, looking like a picture of fitness. And there are wonderful hiking trails all over the island, and incredible activities. So it really should be viewed as a place not to lie on the beach per se, but an island destination that is there to be explored with a bit of an adventurous streak, if you like.
Well, it sounds amazing, but you were specifically invited for the festival, so of course I'm dying to hear all about this festival. I believe it's just magic.
It is. You talked about the Creole people. I actually looked up the word Creole because I thought we refer to this with reference to people in the Caribbean islands, African islands, and apparently it means a person who's actually born in that place. So the pride of the Creole people in Reunion is just so evident and comes across in a very poetic way in their Maloya music. And one of their very great Maloya singers and advocates is someone called Danielle Waro. And I would definitely recommend to anyone who just wants a bit of an upbeat lift to their day to have a look at his work and a listen. And what we learned just walking around and being a part of the festival and listening to the music is just the passion of the people. We were very, very lucky because we actually attended on the one night as a highlight of the festival, which is a 3-day event, a cabaret at Danielle Wenro's home. There were only about 50 people. It was raining. As you just got out the car and walked towards his humble home where he lives, it was just dancing and this rhythm that was just penetrated like every cell in your being, and you can do nothing but sort of join in and dance. And it was muddy and the mud was right up our legs, and the children were playing, and it was just almost with the complete abandon that you just got into the rhythm of the music. But it's not just about the sound and the drums and the homemade instruments, which obviously come to play. But there's always a message in the songs. Traditionally, Malayo music was actually banned in Reunion because it was considered to be the voice of the slaves and had quite a political stance attached to it. But actually, Danielle Waro went to prison defending the right to play and to sing and to express himself with this music. So he really is seen as the father and the carekeeper of this tradition.
Sounds amazing, and I think the words of his songs speak to you, don't they?
They definitely do. And what I've loved is that we all evolve. Everything does evolve, and even though their culture has never been stronger and there seems to be more of a need to preserve it than ever, the message that is coming across in the song now is really a strong one for the new generation to just preserve their Creole pride, and about the environment and just the world and just about doing good moving forward. He even does workshops with children. So yes, I went and I danced and I had mud everywhere, and the one pair of shoes I just don't think will ever recover. I just think that it touched more than my attempt at rhythm. It really it touched me, and I just love that this island just feels like it belongs to the people. I so recommend that if you are planning a visit or you are planning trips for the year, that you consider being there for this event.
It sounds absolutely amazing, and it sounds to me like, and at the risk of being shot down here, I just find that the idea of, we live in this beautiful Cape, whether you're in the winelands out your way or whether you're, alongside the coast as we are here, we have such beautiful scenery surrounding us, so much to do, and it's all for free. Every year I look at the people that flock towards our beaches, and I think, gosh, these people pay a fortune to come and spend 2 or 3 weeks down here every year, and we live here. We can enjoy this on a daily basis. So I'm a little loath to have spent more than one visit to either Mauritius, the Comores, the Seychelles, those kind of islands, because as beautiful as they really are just beach destinations, but this sounds like something completely different and completely unique.
Yeah, I think, Cathy, you've completely summed it up to be exactly that way. I just find that if you want glamour and high-end and luxury, then you should probably go to Mauritius and Seychelles and have your holiday of pampering and lying on the beach. And there's nothing wrong with that. Enjoy it and love it. But that's not why you go to Reunion. You go to Reunion and the accommodation is great. Lots of emphasis on big pools and lapa areas and outside living, and the food, obviously, with the French influence, is wonderful. But it's not only about that. I mean, they have incredible street artists. They have walking routes that you can do guided through the cities. They, as I said, they have all of these different activities, from scuba diving, kayaking, canyoning. There's this amazing volcano which people aren't shying away from. Rather the opposite. They're encouraging hiking routes on top of these big craters. So it's almost, anything that you can imagine doing as an outdoor sport, you can do here. And then in the evenings, you can take to that island rhythm, and you can have your outdoor meals or your walk on the beach. And so, from my perspective, I'm not much of a beach holiday. I'm very bad at sitting still and doing nothing. Very bad. Anyone who knows will attest to that. So for me to be able to be in a place where I just seem to have the best of both worlds has always sat well with me, and I did get the sense of that while I was there.
While you were talking, Dawn, it's amazing how these images are conjured up. We were talking about, if you want the luxury holiday, you can go to Mauritius, etc. And of course, they're very popular wedding destinations and honeymoon destinations and so on. I was actually picturing someone getting married in Reunion with a flower in their hair, almost like on the Hawaiian Islands, with a flower in their hair, casually dressed, barefoot and dancing in the mud.
Yeah, well, I think that's...
So that's what you've done to me.
That's the wedding. Well, then I'm very happy to know it. And I just think, because as we spoke about these Creole people, there were no inhabitants here. And then the Madagascans came and inhabited. And then, there were the French, the Indian. There's so many different cultures that have come into this island and just owned it. I mean, there was my guide, because I actually had a guide, and I'm such an advocate for a guide. I don't speak French, and not that I really think language matters, but you just have an opportunity to ask questions when you're with the guide. And my guide, Nico, of Tours Reunion, he said the one thing Reunion Island is good at is children. I mean, they have all these incredible children, all over the place, barefoot in their little shorts and backpacks on, and what a place to grow up. I mean, never mind anything else. And so, I just think all of these different things, and I never got to do it on this trip, but if you do talk to people who have been, and you go further inland and visit the villages. I mean, it's a small island, and yet when you have a look at it, so much is preserved as protected land. We took a helicopter flight, and I must mention that because it is such a wonderful perspective.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that helicopter flight in a moment, because when I read that in the piece that you'd written about your journey, I thought this is something I'm going to chat to you about, because your description sounds absolutely amazing. But first, we're going to take a little bit of a musical interlude.
Okay.
Il faut que tu m'expliques un peu mieux. Comment te diras-tu suis bien perplexe, je ne peux me résoudre aux adieux.
Je sais bien qu'un ex-amour n'a pas de chance, ou si peu. Mais pour moi, une explication vaudrait mieux.
Sous aucun prétexte, je ne veux devant toi sur Aix poser mes yeux. Derrière un Kleenex, j'en saurai mieux. Comment te dire adieu? Comment te dire adieu?
Tu as mis à l'index nos nuits blanches, nos matins gris-bleus. Mais pour moi, une explication vaudrait mieux.
Sous aucun prétexte, je ne veux devant toi sur Aix poser mes yeux. Derrière un Kleenex, je saurai mieux. Comment te dire adieu? Comment te dire adieu?
Comment dire adieu, says Françoise Hardy. Well, of course, Françoise was very popular in the 60s, but I think very appropriate. We played a little bit of French music because we're chatting on Passport to the World with Dawn Jorgensen about her wonderful trip to, Dawn, you know what Sorry, I should say to Reunion before I finish my sentence. My thoughts are way ahead of me because I'm so excited about this helicopter ride that you were talking about. Doing a helicopter ride over the Victoria Falls is amazing. A helicopter ride over somewhere like Cappadocia in Turkey is amazing. And reading your description of this flight was just made it sound equally amazing.
Thank you so much. There's something about the aerial perspective that you know, especially with an island that is not very big, and I knew that I was going to be there for the festival, and that was definitely my focus. But when I realized that I was also going to be up in a helicopter to get a complete overview of this place, it was just such a surprise. And I had a French pilot. I didn't understand a thing, and it really didn't matter because they took us up. We went from Saint-Pierre. There are about 8 of us, and as you lift up into the air, you just get this view of this blue turquoise wonderful ocean right there. And I was incredibly lucky because as I looked out the window, I caught sight of 2 leatherback turtles while we were still low.
Oh, wow, that's so
and
rare.
That was just such a surprise and such a gift to me. I really felt
and aren't
that
they
was
ginormous?
They are so big. I couldn't believe it. And then just from there, inland, farmland. Reunion produces something like 60% of all the fruit and veg that they actually need for the island. So you just see all of these plantations and mango groves, and it's just so beautiful. And then the variation, the diversity of landscapes. So you've got the farmed land, you've got these amazing little hilltop villages. Some are only accessible on foot, and then you dive down into these green, lush, fern-covered ravines, waterfalls, and then you come to the volcano, which is completely stark, like a moonscape. So to have all of that, we were out for about 40 minutes, and I was all but drooling at the sight. So I actually made a video which I have put on my YouTube channel, and it's a lot of this I've tried to show, but I didn't do a very good job. I think I was too excited, and that always happens when I
tell us where we can find that on YouTube, because that's something I'd like to see.
You can actually just link from my blog, which is theincidentaltourist.com. There is a link to my videos, and that's probably the easiest, that you can just find it there.
Look forward to that one.
And then I think, besides the video trip, Saint-Pierre, we need to eat. I think eating, I don't consider myself much of a foodie, but I love to eat. So I think I'm somewhere between the two. And what we did after the helicopter trip, where the adrenaline had us kind of all revved up and hungry, is we went to the Saint-Pierre market, right down the road. right on the coast. So you have the market and you look through the stalls and you're looking at the ocean. And there's a skate park there and the kids were all out, and it's every Saturday. And I think if you do find yourself in Reunion on a Saturday, it's a small place. You're probably going to land in St. Louis. I stayed in Etangsal, which is where the festival was, and just a little further on is St. Pierre. And this market just had all things that are from the island itself, from clothes to beautiful fruit and veg, wonderful vanilla for sale, and olives, and just local food. So that is just, I wouldn't even go anywhere for lunch. I would just eat there for a long time, and that was just, it kind of just rounded up the whole day and provided sustenance for the dancing that was to come later.
Sounds absolutely amazing. You're painting such a wonderful picture. I mean, I have these visions in my mind. I've never been there. So one of those destinations, I mean, my bucket list is ridiculous. It's so long. And I mean, I wish I was younger and had done more. But, I'm always so grateful for everything I have done. But then I think to myself, there are things I should have done when I was younger, that I should have left some things until I was older. But you don't think that way while you're experiencing things. Then I look back and I think, well, I would love to go to Machu Picchu, for example. I would love to do hikes along craters and things like that. Unfortunately, those things are out now. But with my artificial knees.
Well, I must say, if I may, with regard to Reunion, we met a South African couple on the transfer from the airport to our hotel, and it was this wonderful man from Pretoria who was actually a paraplegic. And he had opted not to holiday in South Africa because he found it very expensive and the facilities limited. And we communicated after we exchanged details, and I said, please, to him and his wife, let me know how it went, because it's so nice to know from a different perspective,
yes, of course,
how travel is. And he wrote to me saying that Reunion just surpassed all expectations. The people, the helpfulness, the accessibility, and the fact that he could be wheeled onto a beach and just sit under an umbrella and watch his child swim. His wife was there. So I think that is another thing to bear in mind. So there's no age limit. There's no restriction on our travel plans. I think that we just need to find the right places and ways to do them.
Yeah, it's exactly. Listening to what I was thinking was that I would put Reunion towards the top of my bucket list and move some of those others down that sound as though perhaps I won't have so much fun doing those. And Reunion sounds like one of those that I would really enjoy myself in. So tell me a little bit about the accommodation. I'm curious to know whether it's self-catering. Are there any hotels, guest houses? Do you stay with the locals?
I think you can do any of those things, up to you. I stayed in a very nice hotel, Flore, I think it's called, and it was the only hotel in the area where the festival is held. And it was more like rondavels with 2 or 3 rooms in each. Very simple, but an incredible air conditioner and shower for washing all the mud off your feet. So, I mean, from my perspective, I couldn't have asked for more. Great big pool and walking distance to the festival. So if you are planning ahead, I think get your accommodation booked there as soon as possible. For general holiday, you'll find that there are quite nice big reserves or resorts that have been built with all the luxuries, lots of spas. But something that is quite new is the guest house option. And again, my guide was telling me that this is something that people are really wanting and experiencing and opting for, where you can actually stay with the family or in a little guest house managed by a family, and you can eat with them and have your conversations with them and really get more of a feeling of what the island has to offer from the person that is living there.
Well, I think it's always good to have a guide when you're going somewhere for the first time, especially. There's some countries when you visit them regularly, you don't need a guide anymore. But I hope you're going to come back and have a chat to us about your recent trip to Turkey and Greece as well, because I think you did that with Trafalgar, didn't you?
I did.
And I've been dying to discuss with someone firsthand, word of mouth, what it is like to go on one of those guided tours, because when I was very young, this was the way to go. And as I got older, I thought, I can't be bothered. I like to do my own thing. But apparently, even though these tours are sort of, you have your guides and all the rest, there's a lot of me time, a lot of doing your own thing as well. So it certainly sounds like something. So I hope you're going to come in and talk to us about that one day soon.
And I know, and I do a lot of traveling on my own, and I'm so good at traveling on my own. So when Trafalgar invited me on a group tour, I didn't know what to expect, but what it did was surpass all expectations and leave me with a whole lot of new friends from around the world, and you can't ask for more than that.
Well, there you go. That's what I want to talk to you about, because I believe in these guided tours, and it's something I'm certainly going to embark on myself. Tell me a little bit. You mentioned the food and so on, and what surprises me a little perhaps is that it sounds to me like a family holiday destination.
It is. I just think it's quite an easy destination. You can arrive, you can either rent a car and drive yourself, which is recommended. And I think as South Africans, we like that level of independence to do that. The accommodations everywhere, the swimming pools, they're just children that are being, just there's so much for them to do. And I think that with people being as busy as they are looking for family-friendly options. I think definitely consider it for that.
And it's somewhere I think you could pack light for.
Yeah, especially in December.
You can come back heavy but pack light.
The festival that I'm talking about, this Festival of Freedom, and it's not only the freedom and the celebration of the abolition of slavery and the freedom of the Creole people, but I think it's the freedom that you feel when you arrive and you join in, on the beach. It's really everything just seems so possible, and I think it does make you believe that you belong, even if you're only there for a few days. But that event is over the weekend of the 20th of December, and the whole country or the whole island seems to be going into holiday mode before Christmas. So
it'll always be the weekend before Christmas.
Always be the weekend before Christmas.
That's wonderful. And you say people start chilling from the 19th of December for 10 days.
Yeah, I think we should try and adopt that approach here.
Oh, gosh. Do you think that will work?
No.
Well, I can do that, fortunately, but I don't think many of the businesses would appreciate that. Well, Dawn, this sounds like an absolutely magical destination. In fact, it sounds to me like one of those, what I like to call a complete experience. There's almost something spiritual about that kind of destination. And, of course, by spiritual, I do not mean religious. I mean literally that you feel so enriched when you come back from a holiday like that.
Absolutely. And what is so funny is that since I've been there, when I'm sitting at my desk and need inspiration, I'm going to Daniel Warreau and I'm playing his music. And it just seems to resonate so deeply. And I'm going to spell it because it's Danyel. And his surname is Warreau, Waro. And I just suggest that you find some of his music, play it, listen to him, and just get a sense of what we should be, focusing on a little bit more. Let's put some of the stress aside and get some rhythm in, and Reunion can do that. Also, Reunion Island Tourism is a wonderful, wonderful website. Their blog is really good. They offer lots of insightful information. They've got a whole division about activities that you can do, food, culture. So really they can be proud of what they've got there, and it's your go-to place if you need any information.
It sounds amazing, and it sounds like the kind of destination that we capitalists should visit.
Yes.
Well, Dawn Jorgensen, thank you so very much for coming onto the show this morning. It was so lovely to have you, and for driving all the way through from Wellington, and hopefully we'll see you in the not too distant future again.
Thank you so much for having me, Cathy. An absolute pleasure.
Thank you. And I hope in the meantime you're going to be doing lots of traveling before we speak to each other again.
So do I. Thank you.
Well, folks, we had a nice chat to Dawn Jorgensen this morning. And I hope you will join us again at the same time next week on Passport to the World. Until then, happy travels.